What if I told you that one of the world's poorest nations just left a former US president speechless? That a small country in West Africa is challenging everything we thought we knew about power, progress, and leadership? This is not just a story about politics. This is a story about pride, resilience, and the unstoppable rise of a nation rewriting its future. Stay with us, because what Barack Obama said about Ibrahim Traoré will leave you speechless too. It was a calm morning in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso. President Ibrahim Traoré sat behind his desk, absorbed in reports detailing the nation's recent agricultural advancements. His focus was steady, until his assistant Marie rushed in, her expression tense. "Mr. President," she said, barely containing her nerves, "you need to see this now." Traoré raised his eyes, sensing something serious. Marie handed him a tablet showing a live broadcast from the United States. On screen stood Barack Obama, former US president, addressing a packed auditorium. The topic was global leadership, but what shook Traoré was hearing his own country's name echo through the hall. Burkina Faso, Obama declared with calm conviction, is a powerful example of how small nations can lead great transformations. The audience listened intently. Obama continued, "Under the leadership of Ibrahim Traoré, this nation is showing that dignity and self-reliance are not distant dreams, they are present realities." Traoré froze, stunned. He had never imagined hearing such words from one of the world's most respected leaders. He watched, silent, as images of Burkina Faso flashed behind Obama. Farmers reclaiming the land, children learning in sunlit classrooms, and young engineers solving local problems. Obama wasn't done. "Traoré has rejected the old models of foreign aid and dependency," he said. "He is building a future grounded in mutual respect and belief in his people's potential. That is true leadership." Thunderous applause followed. Traoré slowly lowered the tablet, breath shallow, voice low. I didn't expect that." Marie's eyes sparkled. "The world is watching, sir," she whispered. "They're seeing what you've built." But Traoré stayed quiet, humbled. This moment wasn't about him alone. It was about every villager who tilled dry soil, every teacher in makeshift classrooms, every youth who dared to dream. "Marie," he finally said, "we must respond, but not with pride, only gratitude." She nodded, already making arrangements. Across the world, Obama concluded his speech with a heartfelt message. "Ibrahim," he said, gazing into the camera, "if you're watching, know this. Your courage is inspiring us all. Africa doesn't need to be saved. It needs to be respected." The statement spread like wildfire. Social media lit up with hashtags like #RespectForAfrica and #LeadershipWithDignity. News outlets replayed Obama's remarks on a loop. In Ouagadougou, the presidential palace buzzed with journalists, officials, and citizens eager to hear President Traoré's response. The next day, dressed in traditional Burkinabe attire, Traoré stood before the cameras, poised yet visibly moved. "Yesterday," he began, "President Barack Obama spoke words I never imagined hearing. He honored not just me, but every citizen of this land." The room was silent, every ear tuned to his voice. "The recognition belongs to our farmers who wake before dawn, to our teachers who work without supplies, to our youth who refuse to give up. This is their moment." He paused, then unveiled something new. "Today, we are launching the Sovereign Future Program, an initiative to empower our communities to solve their own challenges using our own resources. This is not about isolation, it's about integrity. We must stop waiting for the world to rescue us. We must rescue ourselves." A murmur ran through the room, followed by applause, but not all were convinced. A French reporter stood and asked, "Mr. President, how can Burkina Faso succeed without foreign aid? Isn't this too ambitious?" Traoré didn't flinch. "Everything worth doing is risky," he replied. "But the greatest risk of all is losing our dignity. We're not rejecting partnership. We're rejecting dependence." His words struck a chord. Across Africa, leaders took notice. On social media, young Nigerians launched a movement called Value Your People, raising funds to support rural innovation. In Ghana, educators began designing community-led curriculums. The spark had ignited something bigger than Burkina Faso. Behind the scenes, Marie led the coordination effort. She met with villagers, farmers, and local scientists, gathering ideas and listening more than she spoke. In one dusty village, an elderly man grasped her hand with tears in his eyes. "We've waited for this all our lives," he said. "Finally, someone believes in us." Weeks passed, and the Sovereign Future program began to take shape. Across Burkina Faso, change was no longer just a vision. It was becoming a reality. In a small village outside Bobo-Dioulasso, Traoré met Fatou, a young mother who had once struggled to feed her children. Now she stood at the center of a carpentry workshop, teaching other women the skills that had lifted her out of poverty. "Before I had nothing," she told a local reporter. "Now I'm helping others build a life. It's not charity, it's empowerment." Word spread quickly. Videos of grassroots transformation circulated across platforms, showing Burkina Faso not as a victim of circumstance, but as a beacon of potential. International audiences were moved. Even skeptical analysts began to soften. One commentator, during a televised debate in the US, admitted, "This isn't just symbolic leadership. It's strategic. Traoré isn't asking for aid. He's showing what happens when people are trusted." In a university in Dakar, students held a seminar titled Africa Reimagined, inspired by the Burkina model. One speaker declared, "We don't want saviors. We want respect, opportunity, and the freedom to grow on our own terms." Meanwhile, back in Ouagadougou, Traoré received updates daily. The Minister of Agriculture had partnered with universities to train farmers in sustainable practices. Engineers were developing irrigation systems using local materials. And Marie? She had become the heart of the operation, coordinating logistics, listening to families, and making sure no one was left behind. On a sunlit afternoon, a celebration was held at a new innovation center. Fatou arrived, clutching her late mother's old notebook, a gift she had treasured since childhood. Inside, a sentence was scribbled in faded ink. "Knowledge is the greatest inheritance we can leave." As she stepped into the hall, she saw President Traoré waiting at the podium. Their eyes met, and he stepped forward to greet her. "Welcome," he said, voice thick with emotion. "You are living proof that we are building something greater than ourselves." Fatou nodded, tears in her eyes. "My mother always believed this day would come," she whispered. Behind them, children displayed boards filled with photos of local achievements. It was more than policy. It was legacy. And it was only the beginning. As the ceremony began, the crowd quieted. Traoré stepped to the microphone, pausing to look at the faces before him. Farmers, students, mothers, engineers, all part of this national rebirth. His voice echoed across the room. "Today is not about numbers or policy announcements. It's about honoring those who built this nation with their hands, their hopes, and their courage." He turned slightly, looking straight into the cane. "Mr. Obama," he said, "your words humbled me. But understand this. It was never about me. It was always about the people of Burkina Faso. They are the reason we stand tall today." The audience erupted in applause. Then unexpectedly, Traoré invited Fatou to the stage. She hesitated, clutching her mother's notebook, then stepped forward slowly. "My mother always taught me that we must fight for our dreams," she said, her voice trembling. "Thanks to this center, I believe I can fulfill hers too. I want to help our communities grow their food, care for our land, and pass on our strength to the next generation." Her words hit like a wave, Raw, honest, inspiring. The applause that followed was thunderous. Traoré embraced her, knowing this was more than symbolic. It was a sign of something real, a young generation ready to rise. As the images of Burkina Faso's transformation were broadcast around the world, something began to shift. News anchors, previously focused on Africa's struggles, now highlighted its strength. Photos of children in new uniforms, clinics built by local labor, and renewable energy projects lit up screens from Nairobi to New York. In the US, Obama was invited to speak again. This time the tone was different. During a televised interview, a journalist asked, "Do you still believe in what you said about President Traoré?" Obama didn't hesitate. "Absolutely. He's not perfect. No one is. But he's proving that leadership isn't about power. It's about humility, vision, and giving people the chance to lift themselves." The statement once again went viral. In response, African youth movements began organizing around the core idea: dignity through development. They weren't asking for aid, they were asking for room to lead. For many, this was more than politics. It was a movement of identity, of reclaiming pride. And for Traoré, it was exactly what he had hoped for. A future built not in his image, but in the spirit of his people. In the weeks that followed, Burkina Faso became a symbol of possibility. Global think tanks studied the Sovereign Future Program. Leaders from across Africa visited Ouagadougou to learn. But for Traoré, the most meaningful moments came not from headlines, but from the people. One afternoon he visited a rural school built with funds from land reform. There, a young boy named Mamadou ran up to him, shyly holding a small box wrapped in paper. "Mr. President," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "this is for you. Thank you for helping us learn." Inside the box was a handmade pen, crafted from wood and carved with the word hope. Traoré held it carefully, his voice caught in his throat. "You don't owe me anything, Mamadou," he finally said. "You're the reason we keep going. You remind me what we're fighting for." Meanwhile, Marie continued her work tirelessly. On the ground, she coordinated new efforts: solar panels for remote villages, clean water systems, mobile health units. She was no longer just the president's assistant. She had become one of the most trusted architects of the movement. In one meeting, she told a group of volunteers, "Every school we build, every well we dig, it's not charity. It's a message to the world that we believe in ourselves." That message rippled far beyond Burkina Faso. In Kenya, youth groups started replicating community development circles. In Brazil, activists cited the program as a model of grassroots transformation. And in Europe, panels were held asking whether foreign aid should be rethought entirely, not withdrawn, but reimagined as partnership, not dominance. At another national event, Traoré stood before a crowd of thousands. Fatou was there again, now working as a project coordinator. So was Mamadou, proudly wearing his school badge. As the sun set, Traoré spoke to the crowd with quiet strength. "We are writing a new story," he said. "One where Africa is not a footnote in someone else's book, but the author of its own chapter. And we will write it with dignity." In Washington, Obama watched the live stream on his tablet. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, during a final interview, he looked straight at the camera. "This guy, he's something special," Obama said with a half smile. "He's reminding the world that leadership is not about being followed. It's about lifting others so they can walk beside you." The camera faded to black as the voices of children singing echoed softly. In that moment, two continents felt closer, not through politics, but through purpose.